Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-bow! Hi, I'm Alex.
And I'm Adam.
Welcome to Crack's NFL Power Rankings for the week.
This week we decided to shake up the rankings a little bit. So topping them off, this week, fantasy football.
Fantasy football.
Everybody loves it, right? Everybody's doing it. That's what the stats say.
It's played by 57 million people. If you don't play, you know someone who does. And the industry as a whole, if we can call it an industry, they're not making anything, is bringing in $1.4 billion a year.
So I love fantasy football. I've made no secret about that. I've been
played it for years.
I've been in as many as 3 leagues at a time for years, right? But I'm starting to worry that the experience of watching fantasy football is actually ruining me as a football fan. You know what I mean?
It splits your brain
100%.
all of the time.
Right, because you end up, like when I was just a football fan, I knew all the players on my specific team, which was the Steelers, and I knew a couple of key players on other teams that I was allowed to hate, like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, who I continue to hate, and just others. Priest Holmes,
guys.
he was in the
Priest
vernacular.
Holmes.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, what a time.
Brought him out.
Yeah. Ray Lewis.
So you know a bunch of players on your team, you know a couple of players from the other team. Now with fantasy football, I know everybody on every team, and I care about all of them, and I hate all of them for one reason or the other.
It's like the difference between like a half-hour newscast a night and 24-hour news. Like
Exactly.
It's just way more bandwidth of information that I've never needed.
It also ruins the sort of the fresh excitingness of a football game. Like for instance, last year J.J. Watt kept catching touchdowns, right? And everybody else in the world was like, J.J. Watt, defensive player, catching touchdowns. How great is he? I wasn't happy for him. I was like, that guy. Give those touchdowns to Arian Foster. I have Arian Foster. Go hand him the touchdown, J.J. Watt. You don't need it.
Right.
What, are you padding your offensive resume? You going to try out for tight end? Yeah, and if you're in more than one league, you start to make these elaborate schemes that are like more complicated than that theft plot in Ocean's 11 in order for you to like have a good time. In order for fun to be achieved, like you need like a world-class deception and events that are impossible to occur. Like you need Eddie Lacy to play for 4 teams in one evening. And for all the defenses to score interceptions with touchdowns, which are like season highlights, you need that 4 different times that 1 week in order to make your day go, right?
Yeah, you need Matthew Stafford to keep throwing 98-yard passes to the 1-yard line.
Right.
And then meanwhile, that guy Bell on the team knocks out the power in the city so they can rob the casino.
Exactly.
And then
somebody poses as Megatron, because we haven't seen his face, because he's got that like, glass shield in his eyes, right? Somebody poses as Megatron, catches a touchdown, rips off his face mask. It was Vince McMahon all along.
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch!
A lot of people have 3-4 teams at one time, which is like, it's like playing roulette and putting a chip on everything on the board all at once. Then you're just watching spins happen, and that's another event. That's another event.
Right, I won.
Great.
Technically. You know, like it's not possible to feel the elation of real winning if you play more than one league of fantasy football, because you're rooting for everything. It's like rooting for the sun to come up. It's going to happen, but how excited can you get? If you can get excited, tell me how you're doing this. I want to know.
Yeah, that sounds like a good morning.
Right? Like
it's really chill.
You know what it reminds me of? It's that line from Mad Men when John Slattery like lands in the elevator with Don Draper, and then like he goes, I woke up early and caught that sunrise, and he goes, how was it? Average. Right? And that's fantasy football. It's average. Okay, so one of the other nefarious inventions of the fantasy football era is Red Zone. Right? If you've spent a whole Sunday watching Red Zone, you know exactly what I mean. You can't have fun watching that. Like the best case scenario with Red Zone is like that everything goes your way, right? And like it's touchdown after touchdown, which is sort of like having 17 orgasms happen all at once. Like that sounds great, right? But like you want to have each one of them. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to like run over each other. You want to like have one at a time. And instead with Red Zone, it's like a fucking tidal wave of orgasms in the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, it's everyone else having one around you.
So in addition to, not only is fantasy football a thing everyone is doing, it's also a thing everyone's money is funneling into. In a way that it's basically a massive casino that has blown up overnight. This company called DraftKings, in 2013, they brought in $45 million in entry fees, which sounds like a lot, I know.
Yeah.
In 2014, they brought in $304 million in entry fees. And we don't even know what the number is in 2015. We just know that this year, they were able to go to ESPN and say, here is a check for $250 million in advertising in just over the next 2 years, which I think buys you ESPN.
They also are having problems with like inside ethics between the two companies. So they had a guy named Ethan, and I want to say that he worked for DraftKings, who made $350,000 on FanDuel, right? Because they don't have any rules preventing each other currently from betting on each other's sites. So you literally have experts in this field who are allowed to play the game for money on the opposing person's site. That's his job. You know what I mean? Except for his job allows him to make much more money than mine is, and that's why I'm really mad.
And it's not a small amount they're winning. Like
No.
they had to come out and one of the companies announced, well, our employees have only made 0.3% of the winnings on the other site ever, which sounds like very little. But then they said, and don't worry, we're pretty sure that's less than $10 million because
Right.
there's so much money going back and forth that percentage, just that tiny amount, is more money than you'll ever make in your life.
But one of the big winners last year, the guy who won $1 million, his name is Peter Jennings. And I found out not the news anchor, because that guy was dead for 10 years.
Yeah.
So
R.I.P.
this guy, Peter Jennings, won $1 million. And you know what he is professionally? A goddamn stockbroker.
Right.
That's what he is. His job is to trade stocks. Those are the people we want to make sure make money, right?
Yeah, they
Those guys?
usually need 2 or 3 stock trader jobs to get by. So
For
it's
sure.
good that they can just freelance in this instead of having to take on a couple extra brokerages.
Yeah, let's make sure we help out Wall Street because they've definitely been helping us lately. People are starting to compare it to the online poker thing, which, by the way, is about the time that these sites came into existence. Like right around the time that people were no longer allowed to do online poker for money, that's when these sites came into existence. And all across ESPN, you're hearing people apologize for that. Like I was just listening to Bill Barnwell and Robert Mays' podcast on Grantland.
Yeah.
And like they were like trying to make sure that like, hey man, we're not being told what to do by DraftKings.
What?
Of course not, right? But then they devolved into like, listen, greed's always gonna win. So obviously, if we were gonna do a power rankings this week based on what we've been discussing, it'd be DraftKings because they own apparently the ESPN and the NFL. Like I feel like they're one sort of like terrible hydra of sports related information, and it's starting to become a little confusing. But this is the People's Podcast.
Let's leave this era. Let's not even talk about something from. Let's go way into the past. I don't care how far.
You want to rank? You
Just
want to rank
like
something
an,
not
like
in
an
this era?
80s thing or a 60s thing or a
Really?
Anything.
Name an 80s player who goes to the top of our rankings. I will grant this. I'm going to go ahead and say Ronnie Lott. What about Ronnie Lott?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I don't know much. Yeah, great.
Oh, man, he's the best. Ronnie Lott, he was a great player. I'm not a Niners fan, but I'm a Ronnie Lott fan.
Lott, number 1 in the power rankings. Moving on up. And there we go. So great episode, guys.
He was really good. Did you know he lost a bit of his finger to play football?
Like an accident?
No. He broke his finger, and then they were like, "Listen, you can have surgery and be out 8 weeks with a cast,
And then he
or you
received
can
surgery.
cut your finger off and continue to play football." And he made the football decision and cut off some of his finger. That happened. Yeah, that's crazy, right? That's why my fantasy football team's name is Ronnie Lott's Pinky.
There's not a good era, is there?
No, it's always been bad. Hey everybody, thanks for watching our NFL Power Rankings video. And we got a question for you guys in the comments.
Yeah. What era would you time travel to? Related to football or not?
The right answer was Rome.
If you started typing something else, we know.
It's definitely Rome. Think about it. They had aqueducts. They're pretty good ones.
Yeah. Roads still work. Legion hats, really neat.
Yeah.
Come on.
Private armies, backstabbings, senators. Nothing bad about it.
Baths, vomitoriums,
Yeah.
Londinium instead of London.